And then instantly I'm getting all is here. And when it said all is here, it seemed like the space that I was in expanded, and I could feel like eons worth of just, I can't even describe. It was so much, but it was like all is here and all loved me still. All that was expanded, loved me the same way that little space that I was in felt like it looked like it was all equal. And another thing I noticed too was like no negativity was allowed.
Hello, thank you for tuning in. My name is NELLA, and welcome to my podcast, Ethereality.
Today's guest is Natelie Newton Gaymon. Thank you so much for being here, Natelie. Why don't you go ahead and tell us about your near-death experience?
Thank you. I'm excited to be here and to have the opportunity to share the experience with you. So my experience started on May 17th of 2020. I woke up that morning and I got up to use the restroom. I went to reach for the door. I was out of my body before it hit the floor. So I was not aware initially that I was out of my body. That correlation did not sink in. However, when I went to reach for the door, suddenly I moved through the wall. As I went through the wall, I was aware of myself as the wall, all the particles in every single part of the wall. And even though it happened really, really fast, I still was aware of myself, but it was really early. And like, I just told myself, oh, wow, I just must be really sleepy. And I didn't realize right away that I was feeling very light. Like I didn't feel, I guess, of the body. But then once I was in my room, after I had gone through the wall, I wound up lifting and being on the ceiling in the corner. That's when I realized, oh, okay, wait, something's wrong. That was the first thought. It was, this is weird, and then something's wrong. The moment I had that thought of wrong, I was suddenly no longer in the corner of the ceiling, but it felt like I was being pulled by some kind of invisible magnet. And it was like really strong, and it was forcing me from that corner and pulling me in a downward motion. I went over towards the bed, and then I went through the bed, and then through the floor, and then through the ground. And I'm aware of myself as these things as I'm passing through them. I knew I was the blanket. I knew I was the mattress. I knew I was like, I knew myself as these things as I was going through them. So that was odd. Also, because I was being pulled down, I was panicking. That same anxiety, I guess, feeling that you would feel.
Did it feel natural to see yourself as these inanimate objects, or were you an observer recognizing how strange it was?
No, so the perspective was I was the wall, but I didn't see myself as separate from the wall. So I don't know if that answers it, but it was more like I was not aware of myself outside of being the wall. So I thought I was the wall. Like I was, I guess if the wall was alive, I was alive with the wall as being alive. Like,
Okay, so it
I don't
felt
know.
natural, right?
Yes, it felt like it
Okay.
was who I was the wall. Like it was very natural. Someone once said that gives new meaning to the walls have ears, because I was aware as the wall. It was different than the awareness of the body, but it still wasn't awareness. It was awareness of itself. So yeah, I was just like being pulled down. And because I grew up under a certain religion, being pulled down was not the direction I wanted to go. I never thought like I was being dragged to like a bad place or anything. I just kept thinking, oh no, 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 this is the wrong way. Like this is not the way I want to go. No, 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 no. But I never had an official thought of where it would lead me. But then by the time I got through the mattress and the floor and then the ground of the earth, something shifted in me. And I stopped having that anxiety, that fear that I was having. Because as I was the earth, I also was like a different type of awareness as the earth. And it was more. And so it changed me from feeling anxious to being curious. Well, wait a minute. And so I stopped being pulled. The moment I stopped having that fear, I don't know if that fear was what was driving me being pulled. I don't know. But I stopped being afraid. And the moment I stopped being afraid and started thinking, how is this possible? Everything stopped. So it was like I was no longer being pulled. I was just kind of stopped in this space of just nothingness. It was black, but it was more than black. Some people refer to it as the void. and I'm just there, but it was not scary. Initially, before this experience, I would be like, a dark place sounds scary. I don't want to be in a dark place. But it wasn't. I had no fear in this void at all. There was nothing that even gave me a presence to be afraid of. Like, there was nothing there that made me feel anything. It was just empty space just floating around. I'm like, how is this possible that I'm outside of my body, for one? How is it that I'm existing outside of my body? That was strange for me, because my religious beliefs, I always thought, okay, if you die until Judgment Day, nobody's in heaven. So I thought, like, when you die, you'll just, I guess, sleep or something, or you'll just, I wasn't sure where you went. I just was like, nobody's in heaven right now. So I like had that mentality during this experience of, how is this possible? Like, how am I still existing? I was questioning, like, what's going on? Well, how is this possible? How am I outside of my body and I'm still conscious? Like, I'm still me. That was the second thing that I realized. I still thought how I'm thinking inside the body. And so that was very shocking for me. I was not prepared for that. I thought also, like, when you die, you become like this profound being and all the bad stuff is just gone and you don't have those thoughts. No, I still had my personality, is what they call it. You know, I still was me. After the void, the next thing I remember is being in another space. And this space is, it's beyond words, but it was like a field, like land, grass, trees, but it was more than like here. It was alive. I know they say the earth is alive here too, like it's a breathing vessel, but it was to the extreme. It felt like I was connected to everything there. The immediate feeling I felt in that space was so much more than love. I don't even think there's a terminology for it in the English language. I don't know, but you know, people say love. That's the closest thing that I could relate it to. But it was a space of abundance. And I mean, every single part of grain of sand loved me, the tree, everything in there. And I loved it back. It was so much oneness. It felt like it was me. Everything was me and I was everything. And everybody had the same love. There was no measure to it. It was just all one thing. It's so hard to put into words, but it was beautiful space and nobody's there. I didn't sense any people or anything. So I was like, okay, well, where is everyone? And then instantly I'm getting, all is here. And when it said all is here, it seemed like the space that I was in expanded and I could feel eons worth of just, I can't even describe. It was so much, but it was all is here and all loved me still. All that was expanded, loved me the same way, that little space that I was in. It was all equal. And another thing I noticed too was no negativity was allowed, not even a negative thought. Because like I said, originally nobody was around. So when I first was having the experience, I had that fear. I was able to experience still that fear of, I don't know what's going on. This is scary. But in that space, even though I didn't know what was going on, I was unable to experience that fear. It couldn't even come in. It was like blocked or something. I don't know, but it wasn't even allowed. But also in the same time, it's like you knew it wasn't needed. You knew it wasn't necessary. There was no words in that space. Like there's words, but they're not spoken, I should say. It's not like somebody's like how we're speaking right now. It's more, the words are you. They're a part of you. They're in you. All the words they weren't spoken. They were just known, I should say. But I had thought of where is everyone, and then when it expanded, there was a guide. He's showing me these 3 lifetimes that I had. Before this, I never knew nothing about no past lifetimes, no previous lifetimes. So I was a little surprised. But I had experienced 3 lifetimes, but not only be shown them, I was experiencing them. So I was placed back into the body of Caucasian women. She was older. I was in the body and I was experiencing the death of that body over again. It was a heart attack on a bathroom floor. I'm home alone. Nobody got me. But that guy that was beside me, he's the one that came and received me in that lifetime. I was like, okay. Then I was showing a second one. In the second one, I'm an Asian man, midlife. And I'm having open heart surgery. And in that one, I'm experiencing on the table. They got me under anesthesia, so I'm experiencing that. And then in that one, there were 3 guides that came and they took me and brought me over.
Was the same guide there when the 3 came? Was he just accompanied by
No,
2 others? 3 completely different ones.
it was 3 completely different ones.
Okay.
So when they came for me in that second one, I had a clearer understanding of, oh, I'm familiar with this. I wasn't afraid at that death or nothing. I had to experience that fear of that dying again with that first one. But the second one, I wasn't afraid at all. I was like, welcome. I was ready. I didn't even look back at my body when I was going through the second one. Then the third one came. I re-experienced that one as a Black female in that one too. I had overdosed in that. The guy at that time is the same one that came to me in that one. So he was shown up twice in the other 2 previous lifetimes. But in the third one, I got to see a little bit more. So in the third one, I got to see my funeral, who showed up to my funeral. I got to re-experience hearing the thoughts of my loved ones. I was like going through trying to talk to them and everything. It sounds like it took a long time, but also at the same time, it seemed like it didn't take any time at all for all this to be going on. And so we had a conversation after. I'm like, why did I die in that lifetime? What does any of this have to do with what I'm doing here? It all was in relation to my heart, which in this life, I have hypertension. I got diagnosed early, even when I was a star athlete, perfect diet. It just hereditary, I guess. They diagnosed me with hypertension. So I had it for a long time. And so they were saying, not only just to remember to take care of your body and your heart and stuff, but remember to be loved, because one of the things I hadn't learned was how to love unconditionally. And it was like, even in those 3 lifetimes, I had never learned to fully love unconditionally. And that ties into this lifetime, because in this one, that's what I had thought that I was doing, right? I was like, oh, well, that's good because that's what I've been doing this whole time. No, it turns out I hadn't, because they showed me all the times when I wasn't loving. And so it wasn't even so much the things that I was doing. It was the things that I had thought. All the times I had negative thoughts about this person, or I did something in my head to them, Yeah. So it turns out I was not as loving as I thought I was. Or I did not know that your thoughts, you always hear that your thoughts have power, but it holds meaning, because they really do. I didn't realize that the thoughts, those negative thoughts that I had towards people in those moments, how it was affecting all that, not just them, but also me. So the thoughts I had to experience it on the other end of it. I was the receiver of my own thoughts. So I felt exactly those negative thoughts that I was having at those times. I felt exactly how it was to be the receiver of those thoughts. I did not know that. Like, I didn't realize that hurt so much. I didn't realize that caused that type of pain on someone to even have that thought.
Especially because they don't know that you're having it.
That's a good point. Yeah. So it was like, I got the understanding that even though they didn't know that I was having that thought, I knew I was having that thought. So that's why I was the one that had to be on the receiving end of how it felt. Okay, this was your thought. More later in the story, it'll be the things you think and stuff you bring onto yourself. But yes, I was the one that had to experience it, even though they don't experience it because they don't actually know what I'm thinking or anything. It still sends out. I was the one receiving it. So I just wound up hurting myself. The easiest way I can put it is, I'm sitting here, in my head thinking of sending it to them, but really it's just sending it to myself. It wasn't bad. None of the experience was bad, because the guide, he just there the whole time, but I never felt wronged or accused or dirty or any of the negative connotations that come with having had thought those things at the time, or having have been mean in those moments, or any of that. There was never once a moment where my God made me feel like a horrible person because of what I had done. It was completely opposite. It was like, I've never experienced so much compassion and understanding. It was no judgment whatsoever. Even the worst things, there was no form of judgment from my guide. It felt like I was judging me, like me. I was like, ooh, that's not so good, like, I probably shouldn't have did that. But as far as that place, it was all for me. The whole purpose of it was for me. It wasn't to criticize me or to make me feel bad or to punish me. None of that. It was your choice, your life, your thoughts, the energy you put out. It's all you. And so you're just re-experiencing all of you, because in the physical or here in the body, there's sometimes you're not able to experience those things. You're thinking it, but you don't know what that thought is doing. So in that place, you're experiencing all of it. You're experiencing all of it at one time, but it's in no way as a punishment. It's all learning, because afterward you have this real profound understanding in a way that you didn't have before, or it was for me anyway. I didn't know a lot of the things that I came to know, and I didn't understand in the way that they explained it to me. So one thing in particular was one of the lessons with the unconditional love. So at that time I was married, and my spouse, me and him were trying to conceive a child, and we weren't able to. I had surgeries and stuff, and it just wasn't successful. We never was able to conceive. But in the meantime, he wound up getting another person pregnant. And that was a hard time for me. But we got past it, and I said I forgave it, mainly because I blamed myself. I had a lot of self-blame. I'm a self-blame person. So they were showing me the importance of loving unconditionally. So I was like, oh, I do love. Like, what do you mean? You know, I'm kind to people. I don't have no enemies. It wasn't an argument. It was just more like, I don't understand. And they, the most patientest people, my God, there's the patience ain't even the right word, I don't think. It was just more like humble. There was nothing bad. It just was very understanding, patient, you know, safe here. And all these things you're knowing too at the same time. It sounds like I'm having to say different thoughts, but it all was at one time. It all seemed like it just was knowledge at once. And he's not talking to me, by the way. We're just communicating telepathically. He's right there, and I'm hearing, I'm getting this information, and it feels like it's already in me. And in the next area, I see these 8 lights. They don't have any forms or anything. They're just lights. They look kind of goldish, yellowish, like in color. And there's chairs. So they were sitting on a chair. So I'm like, oh, these like, they're light beings. And still not realizing. And so he's like, watch. And I'm looking, and they're all in this section or this area. And there's this big projection screen, and they're all looking at the screen. And I'm with my guide, and I'm looking, and I'm watching them. And I notice on the screen that they're watching is me in this life. It's a scene, and I'm on my bathroom floor, and I'm crying. It was the day after, or the day I found out about my husband making the baby on me and stuff. And I could see on the screen, I'm crying, and I can hear myself praying and saying, well, thank you, God, for this pain. I was praying that I never forget it. I was like, I never want to forget this pain. Because this pain, I thought I had caused it on myself. I was like, maybe it was my karma, because I had done so many, you know, the bad things I did, which I didn't even do anything horrible. But to me, it was just like, you don't do bad things to people. So to me, on that bathroom floor, it was me saying, okay, well, thank you for this pain. Don't ever let me forget the pain. So that part, when I was like, don't ever let me forget it, was like me binding myself to that pain. And I didn't realize I had done that. But as I'm watching, as we're all watching the screen, and I'm seeing myself on the floor, I could see like a cord. So I'm looking, and, you know, I can see what I'm doing to myself, but I didn't know I was doing it to myself. And I said, thank you. He, you know, but also at the same time, I'm getting this knowing that I was saying thank you, but my thank you did not have the good intentions. I was getting understanding like, yeah, you were saying thank you, but you didn't have good intentions behind the thank you. Like it was like a sort of a punishment. Like you were bringing that punishment onto yourself. It was this knowing, and it's hard to explain it, but it was like, yeah, you're saying thank you, and it seems like you're sincere, but really the intentions behind it and what you really felt behind it is totally different than what you're thinking. That was rough, but okay. I was on the floor, and then there was another guide in the area with the 8. And I hear him ask, okay, who's going to be the one to teach her this? And one of the little lights stand us up, and I instantly know that light is my husband. That's in this current lifetime. He didn't look like him or anything, but I just knew that's him in this lifetime. And he said, I will. Once he said, I will, it seemed like at the same time, something was released off. It was gone. I felt so much lighter, because up until that point, I didn't believe that my husband had truly loved me or whatever. That I had the thought that this is not true. This is not love. You do not do this to people that you love. You do not mistreat people you love. You don't cheat on people you love. The God, they can hear your thought. There is nothing hidden. Nothing is hidden. Your thoughts is shared. So they're not private. It's all heard. No, there's nothing hidden. Originally, my thought was, yeah, that's not love. You don't do that to somebody you love. And even though I wasn't saying it, because I was thinking, so he was just like, watch. And so that's why I guess they showed me. And so when my husband stood up and he was, I'll do this for love. It was like a complete understanding that I will teach you this lesson because I love you. Even though it means I'm going to be the bad person. He still was willing to do it for love. And up until that point, I never even thought that possible. I never thought that love could come through in a painful way. Like, I never thought that at all until that moment when it was like known to me and revealed to me. When he was like, I will do this for love. That was the part that instantly, whatever, I guess I was still holding on to it, but it was released. And then I felt like I was lighter, like I was floating. Because before I wasn't walking. There was no walking. Like, it seemed like I was just in this space, and then next I was in this space in like a blink. We didn't even walk. We just was there. I felt like once that happened and I felt something released from me, next thing I know, I'm slammed back into my body. I'm on my bathroom floor looking, and the door stoppers in my face. And so I went to get up, and the first thing I noticed was the pain. I was in so much pain. My entire body hurt. The only people who were home that day were me and my husband, and he was outside. So I was trying to think, okay, how do I get to him? I went to get up, but I was in so much pain, I just crumbled back down again. So I'm crawling. I'm like trying to crawl to him because I still don't know what's wrong. And this pain is very intense. And I make it right to the edge of the living room. I guess he saw my hand or something. I'm not sure. I was back out again. And I'm not sure how I even got to the hospital, if he took me or if the ambulance took me. But I got to the hospital, and the next I'm coming around, the doctor is trying to get me to give consent to get a blood transfusion. He was like, you're bleeding internally. You need a transfusion. And I'm hearing him, and they're also telling me I'm by myself because it was COVID. So my husband wasn't allowed in there. I was saying no. I had something against people, blood being put in me. I don't know. But I was like, no, no, no. And he held up my hand, and he pinched my finger. And I noticed like that one, all the color was gone. So I looked kind of like gray. But when he pinched my finger, there was nothing. You lost too much blood. We have to give you a transfusion. We don't know what's causing the internal bleeding. I'm scared to take you into surgery because it's COVID. And because we don't know what's causing the bleeding, we don't want to give you no infection. Let's try this approach first. Then I have another experience because also at the same time that the doctor's talking to me, I'm also out of my body again. But this time I know I'm out of my body. I'm looking and I'm hearing him talking to me, and I see myself in the bed. While I'm looking at that, I feel like a expansion behind me or something. So I turned to see what it was, and it was the same thing. It was like a replica. And that was odd. I wasn't expecting that. Me in the bed, only that me, she wasn't moving. I was standing in the middle of watching two of the same scenes, but the only difference was one of them was conscious and the other one wasn't.
Have you thought about parallel dimensions?
No, I haven't.
Might be an interesting thought experiment.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, because it was me. It was the same. It was like being in the middle of watching two of the same scenes. Yeah. And so one of them was non-responsive, the other one responsive. And the one of them, they're working on her. You know, I see them doing the CPR stuff and all kind of stuff plugged up to her. And then there's the other me. She doesn't have anything plugged up to her. So I'm sitting there and I'm looking, and then I hear the other one flatline. And I was like, okay. I turned away from it because I was like, well, that doesn't look good because the doors closed. It's like they rushed her out or something and the doors closed. So I turned back to look at the one that I had originally came from. I was back in that body again. I have no idea what that was about, but that was all that experience was. So I was back in that body again. And I told the doctor, yes, you can give me the blood transfusions. They gave me one. It still wasn't enough. He was asking, could he give me another one? But by that time, I was getting a panic. I had just had this experience. I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't have anybody to talk to. I'd never heard of any of this stuff before. So I was just overwhelmed with everything. And then I was in pain, which they did give me something for the pain, which helped. They wound up discovering that what happened was I had an ovarian cyst that ruptured. And then when it ruptured, it caused internal bleeding, which caused the rest of my organs to swell because of all the blood.
Ugh, sounds awful.
Ew.
Goodness sakes.
Oh, terrible. It was so painful. Oh my gosh. And then he was worried about sepsis. All I kept thinking was, sheesh, I'm about to die in this hospital by myself. But I also wasn't afraid because up until that point, I was afraid of death. But then I had this experience and it was like, But it doesn't stop there. So I get sent home 3 days later. They didn't have to do a surgery. It was fine. I had a few more transfusions and then some antibiotics and other stuff to kind of help the swelling go down. But I was released from the hospital. So then some strange things started happening. I'm, home, and I'm having these new ideas, like a new view on life, I should say, a new view, a new way of looking at things. And so I'm home, and I start receiving, I guess, what they would call downloads, maybe. I don't know, information, stuff just coming in. I don't know what that was about either. Now, because nobody ever talked to me about out-of-body experiences or near-death experiences or none of that, I was afraid to tell anybody. I was scared to say to anybody what happened to me. I was like, no, they're going to lock me up in a crazy house or something, and I don't want to do that. And then I started questioning my own experience. When you get back here, it's so different. It's so different. The ego, you have the brain that's in the way. So there, the things that I remember and the experience that I had, there is no limitation. There is no blocks. All is known, and there is no secrets, but that's not even a word there, because everything is known by everything, and it's all one thing in the same sense, if that makes sense. But here, it's different. Here, you don't have that ability to know everything at the same time. I know this happened to me, but I can't talk to anybody about it. Also starting to have these experiences. Like at night, I was starting to travel out of my body. That was new for me, having out-of-body experiences like at nighttime, having these different encounters. And so one night in particular, I'm in my bed watching TV. I'm not asleep, I'm awake. A spirit, full form, emerged in my bathroom and came out into my bathroom. And my bathroom's in my room, my bedroom. So needless to say, it scared me. I never had that happen before. It scared me so bad that, one, I got up and ran, but two, my heart immediately felt like somebody took and just squeezed it, and the pain in my heart. And because I'm hypertensive, I knew that wasn't good. After that, the pain wouldn't go away, that squeezing feeling that I was feeling in my heart. So I went to my cardiologist. They did a stress test on me. They told me that based on those test results that I would have to get a second stress test done, where they're going to inject a dye to see the inside chambers of my heart, to see the functions of it. I had always had a murmur, and I always had an extra heartbeat. The first stress test came back with some anomalies. We need to check a little further, see what's going on. Okay, this is day 4. My heart's still feeling how it's feeling. I'm getting not concerned, but okay, my time is coming, and I'm not afraid. I was wondering though, like, well, why did I have the first experience? Why did y'all let me come back if y'all were just going to take me again? So I was questioning a lot of things. I was questioning everything. I was questioning my religion, mainly Jesus. Okay, I had a big question about Jesus. I was in my bed after they had did my stress test and told me I got to come back. And I was sitting there days of contemplating and really thinking, is Jesus Christ real? I didn't experience Jesus. I've been knowing Jesus my whole life, based on my teachings and my religious upbringing. And I started to get information that kind of made me question his existence. Got told, read this book, Caesar's Messiah. It gives a valid argument that Jesus Christ may have been an invention by the church. So I was really questioning. I'm okay with the dying part. I'm like, okay, it's going to be okay this time. Like, I know where I'm going. At peace with it. It was fine. But my heart was still hurting. So while I'm sitting here contemplating, and I'm really thinking hard, does Jesus Christ really exist? And suddenly, in my room, the space around me expanded, and everything that was my room was no longer my room. It was just light. And in that moment, in that space, was Jesus Christ. And all he said was, I exist. He was emanating so much light that I didn't even see a color of skin or male or female. It looked like a light wearing a white robe and a rope belt. All he said was, I exist. He went and reached inside of his inner, I don't know if it was the heart space or the center, but somewhere toward, he went inside, and then he went and reached, and then he placed it inside of me, inside of my heart specifically. And the moment he did, I felt through my whole entire body instantly. It was like, I don't even have words for it. It was like that space I was in, but also him, also everything. It was so much, but it happened so fast. It seemed like it happened in the blink of an eye, but it seemed like even in that one blink, like if you could take one moment and stretch it out to like forever, that's what it seemed like, because it happened so fast. But he said, I exist. He reached in and touched into my heart, and then he was gone. gone. Oh, but my pain was gone too. My heart pain, that feeling I had been having for days, and also with the knowledge that I was now okay. I knew instantly I was okay. But it was so much that happened in that little moment. It seemed like it was just a second, but it also was a second stretched out into forever. When he said I exist, it was not with the mouth. It was, again, the same way it was in the other space. It was known to me. But it wasn't a I exist like I exist, worship me, or I exist, praise me. It was I exist as all exist.
If you're getting any value out of this podcast, please hit that like button and subscribe. Also, if you've enjoyed my content before, or maybe you're new here but you like it, drop a comment and let me know you're here. I would love to get to know my audience. Thank you for listening, and let's get back to the content.
If I could put it into like a vision, it would be like if there's a single piece of light, and that one single piece of light is inside of every single piece of human being, and everything that all exists on earth is all part of that same light. That's more like what it was. It wasn't like you should worship me and praise me and stuff. It was more like, I'm with you. I exist as all exists. Like you exist, I exist, everything exists together. We're all one. This knowledge, this understanding of nothing is separate. Not even Jesus. Everything. So I went back to the doctor, and they told me not only did I not have a heart murmur anymore, but I don't have the extra heartbeat. I now have a clean bill of health. It's like, well, this is odd. But I wasn't so much questioning religion anymore. Like, I'm no longer a religious person. I just feel like I have a lot of new understanding of a lot of things that are so hard for me to put into words. It's just things that are kind of known to me. But also, the whole experience, I learned the most important thing is that your thoughts matter. Even when you do have negative thoughts, counteract it with a positive one. You know, if you think something bad, even for a split second, try to counteract it with something good, because your thoughts matter. So everything you do, everything you say, think, all that matters. And I never knew that before, but it does. It's human existence. There's going to be times, but just always be love. That's the most important thing. That's what I still know to be true to this day, that love exists in all things, even the worst things. People think love don't exist in the bad people, like the murder, the people that are incarcerated. No, love exists in all things. I saw ODs during my experience. Like, I saw the earth. There was so much that I saw in that experience too that explained to me, like, wow, you never think to yourself like love exists in that, but love exists in everything. Everything has a purpose. I didn't realize that either, but yes, every single thing has a purpose. Even something as simple as a smile has a purpose. You wouldn't think so? It does. Everything has purpose, and everything is love, even if it forgets. So, that's why they say, like, darkness is just the light that forgot that it's love. Even if you forget, even if that person's being like totally mean, you're like, no, that's a demon child, that's the evil. There's love in there. It might be misguided, but it's love in there. That's one thing I learned through this whole experience. Another thing is that there was no religions. That was another reason I am no longer religious. I did not see any hierarchies of different religious groups or sectors or none of that. There was nothing even about religion in my experience at all. And I expected there to be based on how I was growing up, but that is not what I experienced, nor did I experience the hell that I thought I was going to experience.
So what kind of religion were you raised in?
I would say non-denominational for the most part, Baptist, Christian, under the same umbrella of that. It was the belief that when you die, once Judgment Day happens, that's when everybody will be in heaven. Until then, you're either like in paradise or purgatory or something. But yeah, that was my general belief and understanding. And then the only way to get to heaven is through Jesus Christ type stuff. So that's why I thought I was going because when I was being pulled down, I was like, no, this is the wrong way. I didn't think hell per se. I never thought that word, but I just was thinking this is not the way I want to go, because my religious upbringing was hell's down, heaven's up. So if I'm going down, it must mean I'm going to a bad place. But I did not experience that at all. I didn't go to a hell. And the life I was living, if I was going to go, that's where I would have went. The life I was living was not what you would consider to be a Christian life or a religious life. I just got this understanding that all things have purpose, even religions. However, like there's so much more. Like don't get so caught up on the structures and the rules and the
legalism.
platform. Yes, it seems so small compared to the grand everything. It's like it's so much more than just a religion.
I like that there wasn't religion, but Jesus was like, yes, I am real.
Yes, that is still to this day. I don't think I'm anything special. I mean, we're all, to me, I have this oneness now understanding. So it's like we're all the same, but I still don't understand why he would choose to reveal himself to me. Like, why would he say I exist? Why would those be the only two words he chose to use? Why would he choose to put that piece, whatever he gave to me, like the healing? I don't know. I just know it was the experience. It was a real experience. It has not gone from my memory. I guess I'm allowed to keep it. It never came across as go back to religion. Like it was more love. That's all it was. Just the whole purpose, meaning it was all love, and this love exists in all that is. It's the same in everybody.
It reminds me the part where you said that Jesus reached into his like chest cavity or body cavity or whatever and pulled something out and placed it in you. It reminds me of the Bible verse that says he will give you a heart of flesh instead of stone.
Oh, see, I don't know that Bible verse, but that's beautiful. That's wonderful.
You should look it up. Yeah. Considering you're the only person I've ever met who's ever actually experienced that real time.
Yes. It seemed like that blink is like time slowed down or something. And because the whole room disappeared and I was just in that space with him. So I don't know if he took me out of the body again or if he just came here. I don't know. I mean, what happened, it happened. I had the experience. I know it was for me and what I learned from it. People always, they ask, well, what did Jesus look like? And I'm like, I don't know, because it was a lot. It was so much light emanating. See, I saw hair, so I did see the hair, but I didn't see like a face or fingers or toes. All I saw was the light emanating and the words. I don't even know how to explain the words. If words can be ingrained or if they are part of your DNA, that's how it was. It was just like, wow.
I think it's silly that matters.
Yeah.
What does he look like? Like, why do we have to?
Idea
why do we have to know? I feel like knowing what he looks like doesn't change the entity that he is or the energy of love that he emanates.
Right. That's what it was. It was that energy, that love, that abundant, that same, what I felt in that space that just, I don't even know. I wish there was a word that I could just say that people would immediately get it unless you have that experience. There's no way.
Words don't do it justice.
Yes, it doesn't. Because they say the closest thing to God is a mother's love if you have children and everything. But I have 2 children and that love, I love them, yeah, but it was just, I don't even think that's the right word because it was so much more. It was like, I don't know. And it's you, it's who you are. It's all of you. You just forget because, life and the ego and all the stuff that's blocking. But yes, it's all love, 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 love.
So how have you navigated your life since this happened?
Since this happened, it's been a little bit of a struggle just because most of my family's still really religious. Also because some of those spiritual gifts that people get, I guess, came on to me. I still see spirits. I still get information about people. I could be sitting there and I'll know that person's son is a user, even though I've never met their son before or nothing, or never seen them or anything. Certain things I'll just know. But every day, I always just try to be love in everything I do, even when I'm having not such a good day, because some days I wake up and I'm just not in a good mood because of whatever reason.
Because all these like chemicals and hormones and stuff that these meat suits carry around. Yeah.
So like even on those days, the things that have changed for me. So I do meditate every day. I practice breath work. I try to do at least 10 to 15 minutes of meditation, even if it's just silence. I try to have moments of silence and I practice presence, being in the moment all the time, which is kind of hard sometimes depending on like where I am. But any response that you give, if somebody's asking you for advice or if somebody needs your assistance or anything, any response you give, let it be a response from love. Ask yourself, what would love do? before you respond, before you act, before you try to incorporate that, because it's really important. It does matter. I mean, there's no bad. I don't know how to explain that either, that there was no bad. It was more like, if you do this, this is how it'll make you feel. But it wasn't no bad. It wasn't like what you did is bad. I never got that there, ever. I guess it would be called like an evolvement. You evolve spiritually. Because even though nothing's bad, you no longer want to put any extra bad that is out there. Everything has a purpose. Seeing love in the worst situations was something that I had to learn, and I know that now. So, like, yeah, even when you think things aren't love, that it could be that it's love. It's love in all things.
You said you had 2 children, right?
I have 2 boys now. Yeah.
Yeah. Wait, okay,
Yeah.
so you had both your children before the near-death experience?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that you had children, so when you said you were trying to get pregnant and you couldn't, and then all of a sudden you're like, I have 2 children, and I was like, wait, what?
Oh,
What's
yeah.
the timeline here? So you know what I thought was interesting? You were talking about how during your experience, you didn't walk or float or do anything to go from one place to the next. You just kind of immediately were in one place and then in the blink of an eye in another.
Right.
A lot of people talk about nonlinear time, but I had the thought of it being nonlinear space. So if we have outside of this dimension, on the other side, if we operate from a nonlinear type of time, it would also make sense to experience nonlinear space.
That makes sense, because it did feel like I wasn't experiencing time. It felt like I was experiencing moments. All that happened while I was on my bathroom floor, and I don't even know how long. I probably was only on my bathroom floor for a few minutes, maybe. I don't even know. But it seemed way longer there, or it just seemed like a lot must have happened if you're thinking about this time. But yes, that's a good point, because it didn't seem like time at all there.
Yeah, and I also thought it was interesting because you said that you experienced past lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was 3 of them.
There was 3.
And the first 2, you mentioned just the deaths. Did you get to see the entirety of the life, or did you just view the
No,
deaths?
it was only the deaths. All 3 of them. It was in relation to my heart. All 3 of them, I died because my heart stopped. And they were telling me I need to be taking better care of my heart because I had hypertension and I wasn't eating right and stuff. So you're continuing this trend of continuing to make these bad choices as far as your body's concerned. Like I said, I was a substance abuser. It was mostly take care of your body. And the love thing too. It was all like at one time. But there's somehow a knowing too that it released me, because up until then, I had a huge phobia of death. I used to have severe anxiety attacks to where I would pass out because I was afraid to die. So that experience was to show me, listen, you've died many times. Dying was the easiest thing I ever did here. I was out of my body before it even hit the ground. I didn't even feel any pain. Part of that was, listen, you've died multiple times before. This is not a fear to have. This is unnecessary. I no longer have that fear it's completely gone. I no longer have anxiety. Like, I used to be on mental health medicines and everything. I'm not on anything today. I'm very clean, sober. I'm in perfect health, mentally, physically. Every day I try to work on it spiritually. But yeah, it's good.
And so the third life that you experienced, you got to see a lot more of
Yeah,
that
that's the only one.
lifetime. You had said that it was really similar.
For this one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think parts of that life carried into the life that you're currently living that manifested the heart issues? Because you said that that was diagnosed at a very young age.
Right. Yeah, it was carried over. And so I had to release that. But I was showing things or having these understandings, but at the same time, it was cleansing me. It was removing these things from me. Like, I had the same sisters. I had the same children. They were just different bodies. And so when I got to see the funeral and who came to my funeral and in that life, as I went up to each person, I could hear their thoughts. And I didn't know that was possible, but you could hear what they're thinking. Your thoughts are heard. They're very loud. One of my sisters at that time in the experience, I was going up to her and I could hear her thinking, oh, she's here, which she was referring to me, but I was already dead. They had came back from the funeral. And so I got excited and I was like, oh, yes, I am here. I'm here. I'm here. You can hear me. You can hear me. But then the next thought was, no, I'm just really sad. I just really miss her. And so I was like, no, sister, you can hear me. You sense me, you hear me. So like, that was very interesting because during the experience, I forgot all about this lifetime because I was so ingrained in the experience. I had forgot. I forgot all about dying on my bathroom floor here in this lifetime. I was so caught up in the experience, but that's the only one. The other two, I didn't have that. It was just, they showed me like your heart, your heart, your heart. But that last one, I got to see a little bit more, and it was only the end. It was only like right before I died, and then after I died.
That is so interesting. It's kind of like a karmic cleansing about the phobia of dying and then realizing that you needed to prioritize the health of your heart physically. And it also sounds like with everything that you learned regarding the unconditional love aspect of things, love is in all things, you are love. It sounds like those are the three main themes throughout your near-death experience that have really transformed your experience and perspective.
Yes, that is correct. I agree.
That is so cool. Can we just think about that for a second? Like the fact that we can exit at any point and go on this karmic cleansing journey and
Yeah.
then come back and be transformed and approach life in a completely new way. Like,
Yeah, it's mind blowing. It is. But some days are harder, like I said, because being in the body is so different and people are so cruel and mean to each other. It's a purpose for everything, but it gets harder to kind of stay in that space of love. Sometimes it gets hard when you have so much going around, but I shouldn't say it's hard actually, because most times, like when things like that, I just go into my little space and I'm like sending out love and, I'm sending out thoughts of love. Like, yes, your love, your love, your love. Even though, you're angry right now, I just send out thoughts, even if they don't know who I am or nothing. If I'm seeing something negative, I'm just immediately sending thoughts of love to them.
so maybe it was just hard at first and now it's over time getting a lot easier. Yeah. Yeah, and that's actually what I was going to ask you next was, as cool as the experience is, there's also, I hear a lot with near-death experiencers, a bit of a conflict upon returning to the earth and trying to integrate your experience and rewrite your identity, your understanding of reality. Did you really struggle with that?
I did, because I still struggle with that today. I feel like this is a simulation. I feel like this is not even real. And that's hard to kind of grasp because, the senses are very strong here, especially the main core ones, smell, taste, touch, hear, and seeing and all that is very strong. So, but when or when you've experienced so much more than just those senses, it's hard, yes, to answer your question.
I've heard a lot of people explain that being on the other side feels more real than being incarnated in a body. Like this is the dream, but out there is real life.
Like a living dream or a waking dream where you're not
I like to
fully
call
awake.
it an organic simulation.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah. I say simulation a lot too. I do. I'll be like, y'all, this is just a simulation. Like, and I ask people all the time, what if it is? What if this is a simulation? What if you woke up and in waking up or upon waking up, you discovered that you were in a simulation, but not only that you were in a simulation, but that you were in simulations before, other ones and other bodies. And so upon awakening, would you think to yourself, wow, that simulation was horrible? Or would you think to yourself, oh, well, that simulation wasn't so bad. And you know what? I think I could go and do another one. Like, I just generally just ask people, like, what if you did wake up and discover that it was a simulation? Like, how would you define your life?
Does that question inspire you to live your life a certain way?
I don't really try anymore to live any type of way. I just kind of live. I go day by day. I wake up. I breathe. I don't expect things anymore, and I don't plan for things because it's so hard to put into words, because like you said, it's so hard reincorporating back into the body.
It sounds like you're embracing the Eastern philosophy of being the observer.
Yeah, that's what I feel like I've turned into. I really feel like I'm an observer where I'm just kind of watching everything that's happening. I just watch and observe. It's my only
peaceful way of navigating life. Yeah.
And lonely, but not lonely, but it's very solitary. It's very confined to, you, because not everybody has that same understanding or that same knowledge. Not everybody's as open-minded And it's fine. It's very peaceful. It's very peaceful to me. I think it's very peaceful.
And that's why we have this community where we come together and we have these conversations and connect with people who are like-minded.
Yes, it definitely helps. Like, I don't feel overwhelmed or burdened or like I'm missing out on anything.
How do you feel about attachment?
Attachment, like...
Well, I'm not sure if it's a Buddhist philosophy or if it's like a Taoist, but oh no, it definitely is Buddha. He says that you can only lose what you cling to. And that's a statement referring to humans' nature to develop these attachments that we think that we need. But I feel like outside of this material dimension, attachments aren't a thing as much as they are down here and on this frequency. So that's why I was getting at.
Because I would never have thought that I would forget about my children. But during my NDE, they didn't even come into my mind. And see, here, I was afraid I would never want to die because I don't want to leave them. Like, I had a strong, that attachment that you're talking. Like, I would be like, no, if I died, I'm going to stay by their side. Like, no, I'm going to always be here. That was not in my mind at all when I had my experience. I no longer think that way. So my children, I love my children, everything. Yes, I do that. But I don't see anything as separate either. So while I'm looking and I'm saying, oh, well, that's, my sister, or that's, my son, or that's my cousin, I don't see them as separate things. I see them all as part of one. We all have to share the same light. But that's about the extent of where my attachment would go. It wouldn't be, I have to live for this person. Like, I can't live without this person or anything like that.
You can't lose something that is you.
Right.
Right. And I think that attachment is mainly based on our perspective of separateness.
Yeah.
So that's why we have that desire to cling to things, to possess things, like
clothes or shoes or jewelry or kids. Yeah.
Yeah, because we don't want to lose them, because we value them.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so I had a collection. They call me a hoarder because I build movies. I collect movies. I've been doing that since I was like a child. So I had a huge collection, and it was mine,
Collection of what?
Movies, DVDs.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Movies, yes. I was very proud of my collection. That would be an attachment. I wouldn't even let people borrow them. I was like, no, you can't even borrow it. No. Like, this is very important. I have to keep these here. And when I die, you're going to bury them with me. Like, I really was attached. It was so bad. I was so attached to that stuff. But no, now it's so much simpler to have nothing. I could have nothing and still be at peace. It's how I look at things now. And none of this stuff even matters. It has no value anymore to me. I got rid of half of the collection. I was like, yeah, man, they were so surprised. They were, oh my God, you're getting it. I was like, yeah, I don't need it. It's just space. It's just taking up space. I don't, so yeah.
It sounds like you embrace the approach of non-attachment without even really consciously acknowledging or recognizing it.
I don't know. I just look at things differently. Mostly because, like I said, to me, this is a simulation. I know that it is a simulation, like, to the degree where it's just an experience that has to be had. Like, I have to finish learning what it is I'm supposed to learn. If they told me, I don't remember. So I guess I just have to finish learning it. But I also know that at the end of learning it, it'll be fine. I can go through and learn something different if I want. It is fine. No decision I make from any point forward, no decision anyone makes is ever going to be the wrong decision. Every decision you ever make is always going to have a purpose. It's always going to have an effect. It's always going to mean something. It's always going to matter. In that sense, there is no bad decisions. Even though sometimes things don't work out the way people expect because of that decision they made. And they might feel like, oh, I made a bad decision, so now these bad things are happening. But no, everything has a purpose. Everything has a reason. Realistically, there is no bad. There's just learning. That's all there is. It's just everything is learning. You're just learning, constantly learning. And sometimes you can learn, okay, well, if I do this, that'll happen. And if I do that, that means that'll happen. But it doesn't mean that it's bad.
So consequences.
Okay. Yeah. Well, people, consequences. They would say, oh, well, that's the consequence of you making that decision. But even in a consequence, it's still learning.
I like to say that it's not necessarily it's right or wrong. It's just there are consequences.
Yeah.
One more question. If you were to summarize a takeaway from your experience that you wanted to communicate to anyone coming to ask you for advice or insight, what is the mission statement per se that you would share?
I would say that you are more than your body. You are more than your mind. You are so much more than this. The divine knowledge that you seek, anybody that's seeking it, it's already within you. You're so much more. You already have access to it. It's a part of you already. You're so much more than what you think. And you have to know that, not just believe it. Once you know that about yourself, you'll be fine. Just know that you're so much more. Know that you are love in all that you are. Every part of your being is love, even if you don't feel it. Know that. That would be my mission statement.
I love it. I love it. If someone were to ask you how to put that in practice, like in a practical way, it's one thing being told that you're more and that you're love, but how does one actually identify with that?
First way would be to not seek it outside of yourself. So don't seek it to come from anyone else. Don't seek it to come from any other source. It's within you. And listen to your inner guidance. Listen to what's already within you. Don't seek it outside of yourself. That would be my best advice.
Brilliant. Yes, exactly. Yeah, I'm actually reading a book right now called The Kingdom Within. And it's about the inner workings, I guess you could say, of Jesus's teaching. I'm just a fraction of the way through it, but so far it has really emphasized that aspect of heaven being something we access from within ourselves.
Yes, it's in you.
It's amazing, amazing book. I recommend it to anyone. Actually, I'm going to throw that link in the description of this.
Oh yeah, please do. Because
Absolutely.
I love reading. I'm open. I read everything. So if somebody recommends it, I'm definitely reading it. I'm a very avid reader. I do that mostly now instead of even watch TV. So that's part of the reason I got rid of the movies and stuff, because I don't even filter with the screens and stuff as much anymore. So
the key to understanding others is to first understand yourself. I feel like going on that journey of trying to understand myself so that I could understand why people are so crazy. It's literally been such an amazing journey of just self-discovery. So I definitely recommend that for everyone. If you have answers you're looking for, seek within, because they are there. The answers are there.
They are, yes. That would be my advice.
Thank you so much, Natalie, for taking time out of your day to have this conversation with me.
Yes, and thank you for having me. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much for listening to my podcast. If you loved this episode, please consider leaving a review. If you're listening on YouTube, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so we don't lose each other. And just share the link with somebody who can appreciate this message. Blessings to you all, and I hope to catch you on my next episode.